the chocolate factory. Blood in all the hair, the bones are in the bedroom. I take you to the chocolate factory. I just want you for your skeleton. You can tell your mom I took your skeleton. Got a lock on my door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. Took him out to the river. He ain't floating, he was a good boy. His mama don't know it. He was born, it was a baby boy. Grew up and became my favorite toy. This house was built in the 70s. We brought it back to the 70s. Cops didn't see what they wanted to see. I told me cause I needed to keep it. Didn't want them to leave me. It all made sense when they read the defense. They couldn't believe it. Got a lock on my door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. Took him out to the river. He ain't floating, he was a good boy. His mama don't know it. Got a lock on my door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. Took him out to the river. He ain't floating, he was a good boy. His mama don't know it. Got a lock on my door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. Took him out to the river. He ain't floating, he was a good boy. His mama don't know it. Midnight shift. Midnight shift at the chocolate factory. Oh, little jars on the mantle, little faces in frames. I label every promise, I wrap them all the same. I sterilize the memory, polish up the name. I keep them like the flowers that never learn to change. Got a lock on my door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. Took him out to the river. He ain't floating, he was a good boy. His mama don't know it. News vans at dawn, they whisper through the hedges. Neighbors say the house is heavy, like it holds a breath it never edges. I water the garden nightly, the lilies turn away. I hum the old show tune softly, it tells me not to play. They asked my name at station one, I smiled and walked away. Got a lock
On the door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. To the river, he ain't floating, he was a good boy.
His mama
Don't know it.
Sleep now, sugar, sleep now. The factory hums, the cocoa cools, the machines go. Sleep now, sugar, sleep now. I tuck the memories in soft lace and tin. Whisper you were mine again. Soft as a sin. Soft as a Got a lock on my door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. Took him out to the river. He ain't floating, he was a good boy. His mama don't know it. Got a lock on my door that you can't open. So many heads on my bed, the walls are broken. Took him out to the river. He ain't floating, he was a good boy. His mama don't
Lights flicker, shadows play tricks. Whispers crawl like electric ticks. The floor shakes, my heart beats. Hip, 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 hip.
In the dark, you're the spark. Set the fire. Leave your mark. Ooh, put it in me. Wanna feel you in me. Swallow your soul. I wanna swallow your soul. Put it in me. Wanna feel you in me. And swallow your soul. I wanna swallow your soul.
But the smoke swirls, the bodies collide,
touch, burn like cyanide.
Lost control,
No place to hide. In the haze, beneath the day,
pull me closer.
Make me obey. Ooh, put it in me. I wanna feel you in me. Swallow your soul. I wanna swallow your soul. Put it in me. Wanna feel you in me. Swallow your soul. I wanna swallow your soul. Wanna feel you in me. Swallow your soul. I wanna swallow your soul. Put it in me. Wanna feel you in me. Swallow your soul. I wanna swallow your soul.
They say loose as the light gives this change and see the spacey.
Lucifer's a liar, but the truth is plain to see. He brought the light of knowledge while they just peddle misery. He brought the books, they chain the mind, they crucify the free. While claiming they're the righteous ones and trampling on the meek. But I've seen the crosses burn at night under hoods that hide the shame. And I've watched them use his holy war.
Lucifer's the liar, but the truth is plain to see. He brought the light of knowledge while they just peddle misery. They burn the books, they chain the minds, they crucify the free, while claiming they're the righteous ones and trampling on the meek. But I've seen the crosses burn at night under hoods that hide the shame, and I watched them use his holy words to justify their hate and blame. I'd rather be damned, stand.
They say Lucifer's the liar, but the truth is plain to see. He brought the light of knowledge while they just peddle misery. They burn the books, they chain the minds, they crucify the free, while claiming they're the righteous ones and trampling on the meek. But I've seen the crosses burn at night under hoods that hide the shame, and I've watched them use his holy words to justify their hate and blame. I'd rather be dead, stand beside the morning star, than kneel before a God who lets them go this far. If spreading truth and justice makes me the devil's man, then light the flames of hell. I'd rather be damned. Beelzebub, don't judge the color of your skin. He don't need a Bible to say love is never sin. But pastors scream of Sodom while they hide their wicked deeds, protecting all their predators, ignoring children's pleas. And they hail their savior draped in flags and buzz around him like flies. But Mammon's throne is made of light, and theirs is made out of lies. I'd rather be dead, walk with old Nick through the flames, than bow to hypocrites who use a holy name. If punishing the wicked puts me in his plan, then light the flames of hell. I'd rather be damned. Satan wasn't in the churches where they hung the noose and sang. It wasn't him in Charlottesville with tiki torches all in flame. He didn't storm the Capitol screaming out God's name. No, he isn't at the country club where bad men play their twisted games. Says Hazel, Shaitan, Abaddon, call me what you will. He's the scapegoat for their evil, yet he's never made a kill. While the pious wage their holy wars, the devil devil stands aside. He just watches as their hatred spreads and laughs at all their pride. I'd rather be damned, stand beside the morning star, than kneel before a God who lets them go this far. If spreading truth and justice makes me the devil's man, then light the flames of hell. I'd rather be damned. So call me a sinner, a heretic, a beast, but I'll never break bread with rats and buzzards while they feast. If hell's for the woke, well, I'm not ashamed. I'll gladly kiss the devil and dance in his flames.
Right-wing wacko conservative radio talk show host for over 25 years of my life. I'm almost 55. And I was a very, very antagonistic right-wing radio talk show host. And
As they all are. I mean, that's literally the whole gimmick of being a right-wing commentator. Fucking unhinged and antagonistic. Basically act like a schoolyard bully. That's how you make money. It's media on the right. It's just bullshit and scream and accuse people of dumb shit. Yep. That's the whole of it.
I remember when I was against big government. I remember conservatives back in the early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, 2000s. We were afraid of what's happening now.
You weren't against government. You were just against whoever was president at the time. That's it. Like, seriously.
We were so afraid of tyrannical government taking over the United States of America, our own government. We feared our own government. But I guess we feared it at the hands of a Bill Clinton or an Obama or a Biden. And it's been bothering me because I'm wondering, like, what happened to Republicans? What happened to conservatives?
Nothing.
We used to fear what Trump's doing right now, militarizing militarizing the police, militarizing ICE, militarizing all this stuff. We were worried about that.
You just wanted to send a message.
So get a load of this.
You don't like.
I hope you'll stay to the end. Let me know if you did. A former FBI undercover agent just exposed something wild about far-right groups, and it's honestly terrifying. For decades, these anti-government militia groups operated in the shadows, right? They used to detest the federal government. They detested the feds. I remember, and I was one of them. I called them jackbooted thugs. I was alive for Ruby Ridge and Waco. I remember where I was on a college campus watching the television
I do too.
as the United States government went in and burned Waco down.
Yeah,
Some of you weren't even alive. Some of you don't even know what that is. But something changed. That was under Bill Clinton, by the way.
I was still in
and we were fearful that Bill Clinton was using the military and forces like that against its own citizens. Mike German, who worked undercover for the FBI through the late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, said he used to call them anti-government militants. That's my alarm. I knew it was going to go off. But around Trump's first administration, he realized that wasn't accurate anymore. So Trump's first administration, 2016 to 2020, they became Trump supporters. They became pro-militarized police. They became pro-state, pro-heavy federal government. The same people who were warning about jackbooted federal thugs kicking in our doors are now cheering them on, kicking in our doors.
Well, they always wanted it that way.
I'm glad somebody else is validating this because I thought I was in an alternate reality, an alternate universe. A Georgetown law professor put it perfectly. She said it's not surprising that people are fine with police, even militarized police, cracking heads when it's people they don't.
Let me know what y'all think about this down in the comment section.
It's people they don't like.
So it just started to just be like, hold on, we don't believe in gender, but we need a female president. You're like, huh? And then it's like, my body, my choice. Unless it's a baby that needs a vaccine for hepatitis B, which comes from butt sex. Like, what do you, right?
And sharing needles.
And sharing needles. And then, we believe in climate change and sea is rising, but we live on the coast.
No.
Like, would you buy a house on the beach if you truly believed that the seas are,
This is her little bit where it's complete non sequiturs. But because they kind of have the similar wording, she can pull one over on dumbasses. That's how this works comedically, right? So you could keep going. You say aliens don't exist, but you keep on letting them in our borders. Rogan would have loved that one. You say don't huff glue, but you read the Huff Post. Like this is, you feel that?
Yeah.
It's comedic.
That's
in its
literally the
construction,
MAGA brain.
in its execution and intention. It is not. It is just right-wing talking points.
What are you? You're a tough guy now, huh? I thought you were just supposed to be the simpering, but, open to conversation Trump defender. Of course, I remember you when you said he was like the worst thing in the world. But everything's convenience these days, right? It's getting you paid.
Yeah.
TV's Chris Cuomo called out MAGA stooge Scott Jennings, one of the absolute worst of the MAGA stooges, who makes regular appearances on Abby Phillips' show on CNN. We're going to take a look at clips of Chris Cuomo really laying into Scott Jennings. I have thoughts that I want to share as well. Let's check this one out together.
You see this clip of Scott Jennings saying, how are you going to enforce it? How are you going to enforce me not saying the word illegals anymore? How are you going to do that?
Say illegals anymore because ICE is directly targeting legal citizens of this country. And how
are you going to enforce your edict on me, just out of curiosity?
Listen, I understand.
But just listen to his point about illegals.
What are you, bully now? What are you, tough guy? Because you're talking to this kid who happens to be right, calling people illegals. They're called illegal aliens. And
What the fuck even was that?
A long time ago, Republicans and Democrats.
That's like this encounter I keep having online, especially Christian conservatives are the worst about it. But they'll say something all smarmy, smart off, be insulting, degrading, what have you. And then you throw their shit right back at them, and it's like, oh yeah, well, and then like, interestingly enough, they like try to take you on a date after. Well, how about we meet up for dinner so you can say that to my face? How about we go have a cup of coffee so you can say that to my face? It's like, what the fuck? What makes you think I wouldn't say it to your face just because I was like at a coffee shop or Starbucks or something? What the But like, you know what it is? It's that whole like intimidation factor, the whole threat. They feel like, oh, well, if I can create some stupid situation where I can convince myself that you're afraid of me, then I can also convince myself that I'm right about all the dumb shit I believe. It's so fucking stupid. But yeah, well, how are you going to enforce that? Man, if he would have said that to me, well, how are you going to enforce that? I would have been like, I don't know. Maybe I'll knock you off your stool and fish hook your ass right here on fucking national TV. How about that?
switched to undocumented. Why? Because it seemed inhuman. That's why. They changed the vernacular, and you know it. But that's not the point. The point is, how are you going to do it? What are you going to do? What are you? You're a tough guy now, huh? I thought you were just supposed to be the simpering, but, open to conversation Trump defender. Of course, I remember you when you said he was like the worst thing in the world. But everything's convenience these days, right? It's getting you paid. But be careful. If you want to be a tough guy, there are plenty of tough guys out there. You want to see how somebody can make you stop saying illegal? And then what are you going to do? Sue? Tough guy. How are you going to enforce that? So if somebody beats your ass because you're being rude and disrespectful and causing division in this country that's causing distress and pain all over the streets and making people want to hurt one another. If you really want to be a part of that, as the expression goes, FAFO, don't be a tough guy. Make tough points. But remember to be decent. You're not a tough guy, okay?
No.
You're a guy with slick to the side hair, a slick tongue, and everybody knows what you're doing. Don't be a tough guy, not you.
Now, I think this is interesting for a couple of reasons. First, I have my issues with Chris Cuomo. I don't hate the guy. I think a lot of people do. What I do hate is that he's so often, Chris Cuomo, on his show on News Nation, he wants to play the both sides thing all the time. Yeah, the Republicans are bad. They do bad things. But what about the Democrats? And, we're seeing the difference between the two parties if it wasn't already evident. Now, I have plenty of problems with the Democrats, but the Democrats aren't fascists. They aren't authoritarians. They aren't in charge of an authoritarian regime like we're seeing with the Republicans and MAGA, and it gets worse and worse every day. That said, although the both-siderism bothers me with Chris Cuomo, he often makes good points, and he's making a good point here with Scott Jennings. As douchey as Chris Cuomo can be at times, I don't think he's necessarily a bad guy. And I mean, this is just me looking at it from the outside. I don't know any of these people personally. But Scott Jennings is on a completely different level of douchebaggery and douchiness. There's really no comparison between the two. And the video clip that Chris Cuomo was referencing is from Abby Phillips' show on CNN, which, as I said, Scott Jennings appears on Abby Phillips' show all the time. And his whole shtick is just being smarmy and smug and looking into the camera and being a douche. And the clip that Chris Cuomo referenced here is Scott Jennings getting into it with Cameron Kasky, with Cameron telling Scott Jennings to not use the term illegal, to use undocumented. And then Scott Jennings feigned disgust at that. And then, as Chris Cuomo says here, Scott Jennings acted like a tough guy, which Scott Jennings is decidedly not a tough guy, or doesn't appear to be. And as we've learned in the last couple of weeks, Scott Jennings made an appearance on a podcast where he said that he believes his role is somewhere between show business and professional wrestling. So that gives you an idea of the seriousness of Scott Jennings. The sad thing is you have, I don't know exactly what kind of audience he brings.
This is Art from Duluth, Minnesota.
Art from Duluth. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm a longtime listener. I've been following the show since like 2015, 2016. Rest in peace, Michael Brooks. And I've learned so much from you guys, so thank you for that. I used to live 10 blocks from where Renee Good was murdered. So I kind of, I knew that neighborhood, lived down there for 14 years. I'm up here in Duluth, and there has been sightings. I haven't seen any. And, I think it was coming from a good place, but...
Protector, requesting 4 interstellar...
Me too.
5 pods for immediate departure. Protector, requesting 4 interstellar...
Me too.
5 pods for immediate departure.
On paper, it was a Star Trek parody. It turned into a cult classic so beloved, it was voted in 2013 by Trekkers as the 7th greatest Star Trek film ever made.
By Grubthar's hammer we live to tell the tale.
It's for and about those people. Everybody is in on the joke. You mentioned Galaxy Quest, and it's just more often than not, just people just break into a broad smile. I love that movie.
But what makes Galaxy Quest brilliant isn't just the premise or the jokes or how well it respects the genre that it satirizes or the fandom that it exposes. It's the characters. From the top down, from the geniusly ironic casting of Sigourney Weaver, who played one of the strongest
we've seen here at Tech Value Electronics Superstore.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a savings. By Grabthar's hammer, you shall be avenged.
Yeah!
The next task for me, and I felt this was important, was not to cast comic actors. I want.
As she faces renewed calls for her impeachment, beleaguered, incompetent, and pathologically dishonest Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was grilled on live TV by Fox News host Peter Doocy following the second brutal murder of an American citizen at the hands of the Trump administration. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, even Fox has recognized, or at least the saner elements of Fox has recognized, that the Donald Trump and the Trump administration have just lost the messaging war and the PR war and the war of public opinion regarding immigration and ICE enforcement, following, again, the second murder of an American citizen, this time registered nurse Alex Preddy. Now, as Mediaite reports, Fox News' Peter Doocy confronts Kristi Noem. Is it the protocol to use deadly force if the subject was disarmed? And Noem does about as well as you might expect. She, again, lied her ass off. She's been reviled by the American people, particularly since her comments about Renee Good, and she's made it substantially worse here. So let's play the clips.
You mentioned the protocol. There is an angle of the video that we've been playing all morning where it shows an officer removing a weapon either from Alex Preddy's waistband or a holster. And he walks away with the weapon before officers start shooting. It appears that Alex Preddy was disarmed. If he was disarmed, is it the protocol to use deadly force?
And that's all part of this investigation. Every video will be analyzed. Everything will be looked at. And that's part of the answers, that I can't speak to every single thing that those officers thought, but this happened in seconds. They clearly feared for their lives and took action to defend themselves and the people around them. If you watch that and you listen to those videos, you can hear someone yelling, "Gun, gun, gun." And those agents and officers reacted to that. So as this investigation goes forward, all of that will be analyzed.
So you see how she's, number one, she's nervous. You can see she's stammering, she's stumbling over her words, number one. Number two, she's also trying to have it both ways. When confronted, and Doocy's trying to be gentle with this. He's trying to be nice. Like, look, it appears he was disarmed. No, Peter, he was disarmed. He was factually disarmed. It was a small of back waistband holster. The gun was holstered. He never reached for the gun. He never went for the gun. The gun was never in his hand. He was disarmed by a Border Patrol agent. One of his colleagues in green is looking down, sees that Alex Preddy has been disarmed. Then he pulls his gun and shoots Alex Preddy in the back. It is a fact that Preddy was disarmed, period. So Doocy's trying to be nice here and giving Noem a way out. But instead, Noem's like, the investigation's ongoing, so we can't just prejudge. But also, they obviously feared for their lives, and they were screaming gun, 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 and they took actions to defend themselves. So obviously, they were perfectly right, and Alex Preddy was a domestic terrorist. But also, we definitely have to have an investigation. And again, talking out of both sides of her mouth, and certainly contradicting the remarks she gave in the immediate aftermath of what happened to Preddy. So it's just a despicable, disgusting person. But you'll see that on more display here.
But I want to have you walk our audience through what exactly you know. So you said last night, it looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals.
I just want anyone to explain to me what is the relevance in the phrase, only had seconds to react. Okay, and? What does that even mean? You only had seconds to react, okay? So? So just be impulsive. Be impulsive and irrational. I mean, what's the big... I only had seconds to react, so it's okay that I just shot an innocent person and murdered them. Like, what idiot? What? Where do police find the morons who come up with these fucking phrases, these arguments? Where do law enforcement find the morons that come up with this shit? Only had seconds to react, okay? And every human being in every situation can argue that. So you're arguing that because you're impulsive, whatever you do is okay. I mean, what the fuck? It doesn't even mean anything. Okay. So here's the thing. So cops love just popping up and shining flashlights at people's faces, blinding them. They love doing that. It's one of their favorite things to do, to fuck with people. Because they're fucking overgrown school bullies, the whole lot of them. That's why I only kind of feel sorry for people like Officer Fanon. But, so you're out doing your thing. Some cop wants to be a prick. Comes up out of the shadows, shines his flashlight in your eyes. Okay, so it's okay to blast him. It's perfectly fine to pow. Aim right at that light and unload the clip, right? Because you only have seconds. You only have seconds to react and you fear for your life. Same exact thing cops keep saying, right? Only got seconds to react and you fear for your life. Cop shows up, pounds on your door. Bum, 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 bum. Just go ahead and blast. Because, you know, you only got seconds to react and you fear for your life. So stupid.
And to kill law enforcement. Did he say, I'm going to kill you, or did he leave a note? How do you know that was his intent?
You know, part of this investigation will be hearing from those agents and officers and people on the ground. But we do know that he came to that scene and impeded a law enforcement operation, which is against federal law. It's a felony. When he did that, interacting with those agents, when they tried to get him to disengage, he became aggressive and resisted them throughout that process.
So again, note how he asked her a direct question. Basically what I was talking about, hey, you stupid bitch, you came out and you said all these heinous things about Alex Preddy. What's your evidence? What's your evidence? Well, I mean, the investigation, like, you know, we're going to hear from like witnesses or whatever, but you know, he showed up and he resisted arrest. Well, that doesn't get you anywhere close to proving that what Alex Preddy was trying to do was inflict maximum damage and kill law enforcement agents. There's no evidence of that whatsoever, and plenty of evidence to the contrary, like the fact that he had a phone in his hand and not a gun. And there was plenty of opportunity, just from a tactical perspective, for him to use his gun against law enforcement agents before they swarmed him. So again, totally stupid. She knows she's wrong. She knows she's lying. She knows she will never win the battle of public opinion. She knows she's fucked on the facts, and she's doubling down anyway because she is a despicable, evil person. She's evil. She's not just misguided. She's not just wrong. She's a shitty, evil person, like so many in the Trump administration.
A woman who was pushed down by ice and pepper sprayed. But they also talked to the Associated Press, and they said, we had this discussion with them 2 weeks ago or so. Go ahead and protest, but do not engage. Do not do anything stupid, basically. So what is your message this morning to Alex Preddy's parents?
Just that I'm grieved for them. I truly am. I can't even imagine losing a child, and I can't imagine a tragic situation. We can't have individuals that are impeding law enforcement operations and then showing up with guns and weapons and no ID and confronting law enforcement like that. Is one of the reasons that we see situations like this unfold. I think everybody can learn from this situation. I'm grateful for law enforcement to put their lives on the line every day to go out there on the streets and try to bring criminals to justice and protect the public. And we'll continue to make sure the right thing is.
MAGAs make me want to scream. They make me want to just use them as speed bags. They're just so casually evil, abusive. And yeah, abusive. What they're doing, the way they act, the gaslighting, that is legitimate abuse. I feel sorry if she has children in her home because they have to be fucking abused all to hell, traumatized all to hell. Having such an evil, vile creature in your home abusing you like that. She's like a horror movie villain. There was no impeding. There was no where was the impeding? Where was the confronting? He went to go help a woman up. They pushed her to the ground. He went to go help her up, and then so they started physically attacking him too. She started off. He obviously went there to massacre the okay. So where's your evidence? Where's your reasoning for the massacre? Where are you getting that? Oh, I don't want to talk about that. We got to leave that to the investigation. Okay, so then why the fuck did you state for a fact? Why did you put it out as a fact that, oh, yeah, he was there to massacre? If now, oh, we got to leave it up to the investigate. He wasn't even confronting anyone. He wasn't even impeding anyone. She's evil. She's evil. And I hope this ends with her receiving capital punishment.
is done, this investigation is completed, and that we continue to go forward and we enforce the law.
I can't listen to her anymore because I just want to.
Welcome back. It is time for the offendometer. Teams have to tell us who's the offender, what they did, and who they offended. Let's see your offender, teams.
She enrages
Oh,
me.
that's Eric Swalwell.
Okay.
It is.
And who did Eric Swalwell offend?
Eric Spitwell?
Put your hand up. Put your. I'm going to go with Eric Spitwell.
Swalwell offended congressional Republicans.
Oh my God.
Now, how did he offend?
Oh, this one I know. He called them all liars and phonies because
that's true.
They make fun of Trump behind his back.
Yeah.
And but yet they insulted all the January 6th police that were there. Yeah.
Points.
Yes, indeed. Spitwell was pretty good, though.
Thank you.
Congressman Swalwell offended Republicans in Congress by calling them out in a congressional hearing. To that
There's a new Wonder Woman villain on the scene, sorta kinda. The 25th issue of Wonder Woman from 2025 from the Tom King Danielson Rose Gallery could use some bolstering. And one definite reality is there is a lot of untapped and unmined potential with those who do exist. And while it's in no means unique to Wonder Woman, there does seem to be a bit more of a how she takes this incredible, difficult to grasp onto and get excited about as a result. And just in general, some have a hard time with potential futures because there's a bit of a sense of will it end up mattering in the long run. Some have the idea that it simply won't matter and they're waiting.
So, Representative Brandon Gill, a freshman Republican from Texas, whose primary quality
we did. Yes, you did. And the subpoena covered the time period between November 2020 and January 2021. Is that right? I'm sorry, sir. Could you say that again? We're not going to delay like this. The subpoena covered the time period between November of 2020 and January 2021. How many days after Kevin McCarthy was sworn in as Speaker did you subpoena his records? I don't recall, but those two things had nothing to do with one. It was 16 days after becoming the highest-ranking Republican in the House of Representatives. You subpoenaed his toll records. Do you agree that that might reasonably be considered a violation of the speech or debate clause? I do not, and I want to be clear that the toll records... You were collecting months' worth of phone data on the Republican Speaker of the House, the leader of the opposition, right after he got sworn in as Speaker, all around the time of a major vote. That sounds like a flagrant violation of the speech or debate clause to me, and I think most people agree with me. And Speaker McCarthy had no recourse, did he? Because you issued a non-disclosure order ensuring that neither he nor any of the American people knew about these subpoenas. Is that right?
It's like if Tom Clancy was really dumb, tried to write a story.
Toll record, the non-content toll record subpoenas, we did secure non-disclosure orders for those subpoenas. You did, and let me ask you, Mr. Smith, at the time you secured those non-disclosure orders, was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk? The non-disclosure order was based on concerns about... Was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk? He was not. He was not. Then why did your non-disclosure order refer to him as a flight risk? It says right here, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution. Sir, when securing a non-disclosure order, the risks don't have to be associated. You think that the Speaker of the House is a flight risk?
The question?
No, this is not your time.
God
this
damn.
is my time. You think
Shut the fuck
Speaker
up
of
and
the
let him
House is a
answer.
flight risk? You think he's going to hop on a plane and leave the country? No, what I was trying to explain is with respect to a non-disclosure order, the risks aren't necessarily associated with the subscriber to the phone. They're the risks to the investigation. I think that you were using, this was clearly in reference to Speaker McCarthy, and you were using clearly false information to secure a non-disclosure order to hide from Speaker McCarthy and from the American people the fact that you were spying on his toll records. But I've got more, so let's move on. In May of 2023, you also issued subpoenas for toll records of 9 U.S. senators and an additional representative.
This guy's
is that right?
like that.
In May of 23, we did issue...
You did, and there were non-disclosure orders in conjunction with those subpoenas as well, right?
That's correct, consistent with department policy and the law.
So again, nobody would know what you were doing. The senators would, and the representatives would, and the American people wouldn't know what you were doing. Is that right?
The toll records that we secured and the non-disclosure orders were consistent with policy and consistent...
And you knew whenever you were doing that there was a risk you were violating the speech or debate clause.
It's even
Is that right?
policy now. No, he wasn't.
The toll record subpoenas that we secured were with the concurrence of the public integrity.
Your own analysis says that you knew there was a risk you were violating the speech or debate clause. I have it right here. This is an email from John Keller at Public Integrity Section to your team. As you are aware, quote, as you are aware, there is some litigation risk regarding whether compelled disclosure of toll records of a member's legislative calls violates the speech or debate clause in the D.C. Circuit. That's from your own analysis right there. So you did know, didn't you?
Sir, with respect to the item you just put up on the screen, the last sentence states...
oh, we're going to get to the last sentence.
Okay.
We're going to get to the last sentence. And you cite case law in here, quote, the
What
bar on
the
compelled
hell?
disclosure is absolute. Is that right? Or do you think that you didn't have to abide by that precedent?
To be clear, this statement is not from my office. This is the statement
This
of
is
public
this is your justification for those subpoenas and NDOs that you ordered. This was part of your analysis. It's a cursory analysis. I think it's worth noting. But let's get to that last sentence then. Quote, given my understanding of the low likelihood that any of the members listed below would be charged, the litigation risk should be minimal here. In other words, you're using a novel legal theory, which you knew was novel, has never been tested by any court. You're not charging any of these members. Nobody's going to know about it because you issued NDOs. Nobody's going to sue about it, so who cares? We're going to do it anyways. I mean, you walked all over the Constitution throughout this entire process.
Mr. Chairman, the gentleman's time has
spying
expired.
on members of Congress, and you know it. It's absolutely disgraceful. I yield back.
Okay, let me just validate the feeling you probably had while watching that. It sounds scandalous, doesn't it? The idea that the Department of Justice was spying on the Speaker of the House and labeling him a flight risk, like he's El Chapo planning a tunnel escape. I mean, look, to be fair, seeing how fast Kevin McCarthy fled from his principles to Mar-a-Lago after January 6th, maybe flight risk isn't totally inaccurate. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But if you're feeling outraged, it's because Gil is banking on you not knowing how the law actually works. And honestly, that tactic works way more than it should. So I went ahead and looked up the actual statute that Jack Smith was operating under, because Gil certainly wasn't going to read it to you. The authority for these non-disclosure orders comes from 18 U.S. Code Section 2, 705, subsection B. And according to the text of the law, a court shall grant one if notifying the person would result in any of 5 specific consequences. Gil kept hammering on number 2, flight from prosecution. But he conveniently ignored the other options, specifically number 3, destruction of or tampering with evidence, and number 5, seriously jeopardizing an investigation. When prosecutors file these forms, they often check multiple boxes, because tipping off a suspect, or even a witness, can lead to deleted texts and coordinated stories. It's not that they think Kevin McCarthy is going to defect to Russia, it's that they think he might accidentally delete his call logs. Whoops, just slipped right out of the phone. And let's talk about what toll records actually are, because the word spying is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Toll records are metadata. It's logs of who called who, when, and for how long. It is not the content of the calls. They weren't listening to Kevin McCarthy order pizza or beg for votes, which, now that I say it out loud, honestly, that would be kind of funny. But no, that's not what this is. And as for the speech or debate clause, Defense Gil is clinging to the idea that members of Congress are immune from legal scrutiny. The Supreme Court has generally held that this protection applies to legislative acts. It is not a blanket immunity shield for potential criminal conspiracies involving overturning an election. The litigation risk email Gil waved around wasn't an admission of guilt. It was a lawyer doing their job assessing the likelihood that a member of Congress would sue them to slow down the investigation. Which, yeah, of course they would. That's not a conspiracy. That's just a Tuesday. What we are witnessing here is a deliberate strategy to conflate accountability with persecution. By focusing on the process of the investigation, the forms, the checkboxes, the timing, Gill is trying to distract from the substance of what was being investigated. They want you to be mad about the non-disclosure order, so you forget why Jack Smith needed to see who the Republican leadership was talking to in the days leading up to January 6th. And, I mean, come on, if it was totally normal, they wouldn't be acting this weird about it. So here is the simple truth you can tell your friends. Prosecutors don't ask suspects for permission to check their phone bills. They don't. They can't. That's not how any of this works. If Jack Smith had told Kevin McCarthy he was looking at his records, the evidence would have vanished faster than McCarthy's speakership, which, still kind of incredible, honestly. Like, record speed. So what does this mean? On a personal level, imagine if the police had to ask a bank robber for permission before checking the security cameras. That sounds ridiculous because it is. Yet, that is the standard. Republicans want applied to themselves. It's a level of entitlement that says, laws are for you, not for us. And if you or I were under investigation for a federal crime, we wouldn't get a courtesy call from the Department of Justice. We'd get a knock on the door, and probably not a friendly one. On a broader scale, this is an attempt to criminalize the investigators. By dragging Jack Smith in and shouting about novel legal theories, they're trying to ensure that no future prosecutor ever dares to look into the phone records of a Republican politician again. It is a chilling effect designed to place the political class above the law. And for what? To protect the reputation of Kevin McCarthy, a man who has already been humiliated by his own party? No. It's to establish the precedent that if you have an R next to your name, your phone records are sacred even if they contain.
Today we're going to talk about 10 video game sequels that ruin the story. A lot of games that are going to show up in this video, like StarCraft 2 is not a bad game at all, don't get it twisted. It's just a bit of a disappointing follow-up to the original game's story. This game is the perfect example of old versus new Blizzard. You know, the quality of writing going from the 1999 Condemned 2. Bloodshot, the follow-up to like one of my favorite games, just an underrated cool horror game. So think of it this way, if the first Condemned game was like David Fincher's Seven, then Condemned 2 Bloodshot is kind of like a Slipknot music video. Like all that creepy lore you discovered in the first game, all that slow burn detective stuff, it was all leading up to this. It's not just that the sequel is so blatantly extreme and very 2000s, or that it's going for a more in-your-face, kind of obvious kind of horror compared to the more subtle first game. It's also that the story teased in the first game just goes completely off the rails. I wouldn't blame anyone for assuming that this sequel had like nothing to do with the original. I mean, just look at the protagonist from the first game compared to the sequel. They're apparently the same guy, but they might as well just be a new character for how much they have to do with the original. There was a lot, you know, he went through a lot, and I think the game was trying to reflect that, but it didn't really land. We got a whole lot more lore in Condemned 2 regarding the cult, and I kind of wish that we hadn't, because the more you learn about these guys, it's like the less scary they become. Hyperbole. A sequel is never going to literally ruin the story of the first game because it's a sequel. It's not the same game. The story of the original is still there if you want it, and it's not taking anything away from you, right? When people say stuff like this, they're exaggerating for emotional effect, but with Overwatch 2, it's just kind of like, what happened? Blizzard literally erased the original game and replaced it with Overwatch 2. It was always a bad, consumer, unfriendly idea. It was very convoluted at the time. It felt like they didn't know what they were doing, but at least they were going to greatly expand the story of Overwatch by including a campaign-like story mode that could be played cooperatively. With Overwatch 1, it was widely considered one of Blizzard's biggest mistakes that they didn't capitalize on the story of the game. I mean, people loved the character shorts, the characters themselves, and they desperately wanted more stories with these cool characters in this cool world that they were really attached to. But Blizzard just like completely fumbled and failed to capitalize on the potential of that setting. They made a few PvE modes and maps, but they barely pushed the story ahead, and it all ended up feeling like a missed opportunity. So when Overwatch 2 was actually announced, there was some excitement from the community that they were rectifying past wrongs and, you know, bringing the story back right up to the forefront. And then they completely canceled the campaign mode that everybody wanted, and they released Overwatch 2 anyway. So now it's not just a disappointing sequel that doesn't follow up on the original story in a satisfying way, it completely erased the meager story we got even in the first one. Now at number 7, you know this was coming, Metroid Other M. This is a game it's hard Next at number 6, Crackdown 2. Look, at the end of Crackdown 1, we find out this pretty surprising and shocking truth. The agency, the organization that moved into the city to clean up the crime and who was, commanding you, that whole thing, they were actually evil. Wow, what a revelation. The game with no story really tried to have a twist ending, and it was cool. I mean, but whatever. It was like really one of the only creative routes they could have taken. It's a great game, but there's barely any story to speak of. And then Crackdown 2 comes along and somehow still finds a way to make that worse. So what happens in the sequel is that 10 years after liberating the city, this new freak virus has spread and turned the town into a post-apocalyptic wasteland that's basically the same as it was in the first game, only uglier and less fun to play around in now. So to make a short story even shorter, you play through the game and find out the shocking truth that the agency was actually evil again.
That's one hell of a trial run. With Sunburst in full effect, the agency expansion plan is back on track. I pity anyone who stands in our way.
Yeah, it's the exact same twist as the original game, only it makes even less sense. Apparently, the agency taking over the city the first time wasn't enough to stick. Next at number 5, Prince of Persia: Warrior Within. Now, with any given sequel, you need to add additional conflict. You gotta up the stakes. So while it seemed like the prince was able to reverse time and fix everything at the end of the Sands of Time, something bad has to happen again if they want to make a sequel. Still, it felt like they kind of went way overboard with it in Warrior Within, the Godsmack infused sequel that kind of threw all the charming Arabian Nights fairy tale storytelling of the original game for a heaping helping of mid-2000s edgy stuff. So many game sequels at this time tried to completely reinvent the wheel by turning, previously lighthearted and colorful games into brown, gray, brooding, violent games. And, it worked sometimes, and sometimes it didn't. But it just felt like the Prince of Persia series got hit with that 2000s, grunge stick pretty hard. The sequel reveals that the prince's time shenanigans at the end of the first game actually made his life a living hell. Now he's being hunted by this unkillable time monster, and because of that, he now looks kind of like a bad guy. He calls people bitch, and he broods a lot.
You bitch!
Fucking 8 degrees.
Number 4, Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. Now at number 3, Chrono Cross. Few games offers as a kind of weird follow-up to Final Fantasy X. Yeah, now at number 1, Half-Life Alyx. Look, let's talk about this one. There is no disrespect to this game whatsoever. It is a masterpiece of VR design, and it is a great Half-Life game, but the ending is something, man. Half-Life 2 Episode 2 ended on a legendary cliffhanger. The Half-Life games aren't generally known for their stories, but that was an ending that demanded real proper follow-up. So, of course, Valve zigs when everyone expects them to zag. The story of these games is already confusing enough, but now